with Filecoin versus Bitcoin, how much more complex the hardware needs are to run Filecoin. It's very, very complex. I mean, one of the biggest differences for Asia Pacific and China is the data center and specifically the type of internet connection you need. For Bitcoin, you can have thousands of equipment in Mongolia or Xinjiang, very far away places, and still make money. But as the storage providers know here, and for the students, if you've never been in a data center, it is a much different environment, and you have to require much different engineering to run it. I mean, there is no way to say this, but it is far more complex, which is both good and bad. The bad being the number of people that can enter into the market is much smaller. So, and we have a big ecosystem, as does Bitcoin as well now. They tend to have these layer twos. I don't know what they do, but the one difference we have too is we have a fiat component, which, well, right now at least Bitcoin doesn't unless you want to invest in one of. Okay, pay attention here. There might be a quiz later. There might be a reward. There's definitely a reward later. This is the total size of the market, and it's roughly, I'll call it 200 billion is the number I want to use. You can add those up, but generally the market is about $200 billion, the total storage market across the world. So it's a lot of money that goes into data storage, because we continue, and it grows somewhere between 15 and maybe 20% per year in a good year. But generally we say the market right now, snapshot, $200 billion of total sales. So it's a lot of money that gets sold just to store cat photos around the world. And then when it comes to the types of storage, Filecoin started with archive storage or cold storage. And we say that that market is roughly 10% of the total market. It grows at a little bit slower pace, around probably 10%, but it's still a big market. The difference is that people pay in advance often for cold storage. They have 1, 2, and 3-year commitments, which is why Filecoin is a great business when you think about getting your payments up front, or at least booking people and selling 12, 24, 36-month contracts. So again, $200 billion market, quite big. We're going to talk about why it's so big and why there's probably so many players as well. But first off, I want to talk about, why do people get into the data storage business? Why are they in the Filecoin SP business? And there is a law in economics, maybe they don't teach it in China, but we teach this when I studied economics and engineering, after a very famous bank robber in the 1930s. And he was coming, after he was handcuffed, and he was coming out for an interview, they came up to him and said, Willie, why did you rob all those banks? And he turned to the reporter and said, because that's where the money is. In other words, people get into the mining business, the storage provider business, the Bitcoin business, because of money. If anyone tells you differently, run. And why is the cloud business, the storage market, such a good business? Is because it's a very high margin business. These are margin breakdowns, starting from the bottom of some services that get provided. Huawei has a similar service, as does Alibaba Cloud. These are your standard GPU, CPU, these are database services and such. But when you look at the hardware that goes into a data center, a cloud provider, again, Alibaba, Tencent, AWS, Korea Telecom, they don't make a lot of money on their CPUs and GPUs. They have to actually replace these quite frequently as well, because the product life cycle of a GPU right now, because of NVIDIA and some of the pressure that China is putting on themselves, is about 1 year. right? I'd say GPUs maybe have 1 year, maybe less. CPUs as well, but when you get into storage, the storage capital expenditures, at least from a footprint, may look more expensive, but it's a very high margin business. And the equipment can last a lot longer. It usually lasts a minimum of 3 years, but warranties are 5 years. So we'll talk about that as well. Any questions? Who here has been in a data center? Anyone? I know all the SPs have. Anyone over here? Data centers, they're not fun, but it's interesting. So where does Filecoin fit in the data center market or the data storage market? There is no other way to say this, but we are a cheaper product, and we always will be. Because Tencent, Alibaba, AWS, Google Cloud, those are very high quality products. And this example is if I was storing a petabyte of data with no discounts, there's no discount here, a petabyte of data, depending on where you're storing it, will cost, Hong Kong is very expensive because power is very expensive. So the blue represents just storage, what you pay to store. The red represents moving the data out, or the industry calls that egress. And it's very important because that's where they catch you. You get stuck in this egress game. We sit in a market where we have chosen right now not to charge for egress. So flat fee, flat storage. And these are our main competitors, Wasabi, Backblaze, and some others. But Filecoin, which we have seen because of Tim and also the other presentations, is about a $5 storage product. $5 per terabyte per month. And that's about where most of the market is. And you're not going to get much cheaper, and I'll show you why. Because some things have limitations on production. The other thing that I like to point out, I'm going to come back to this slide because I want to talk about this slide. Most of the world's data is actually stored on these types of drives. They're hard drives, they're about this big, and they spin. There's spinning drives inside of here. And the price is mostly fixed around the world because there are only 3 hard drive manufacturers in the entire world. 2 in the United States and 1 in Japan. And then some of it gets made in China, but the brands themselves, 2 in the United States, 1 in China. It's very difficult to start a hard drive manufacturing business. And many of the drives themselves are also made in Thailand. Now, it is the biggest cost that any of our providers have. Everyone that's a storage provider knows that. Anyone building a data center knows that your initial cost on storage or GPUs now is very expensive. And they tend to have a 5-year life cycle because the warranty is 5 years. Some providers like Tencent, Alibaba, or AWS, and even Filecoin storage providers try and get 7 years, but our network is only 5 years old. I know some of the drives on the network are used, but this is an example. Now, what is the cost to produce 1 terabyte over 5 years comes to about 28 cents per month. Minimum cost is 28 cents, so you cannot sell your product cheaper than that. And then when you have your overhead and redundancy, this is your insurance, as we could call it, you're probably around 40 cents. But 28 cents, remember that number, is about the minimum cost you can produce a terabyte and sell it. This does not include the data center cost. This is your raw cost, which is why you can sell it for $5 and potentially make money. There's a couple, I want to go back to this slide. So, Filecoin has about 3 exabytes of storage. You can see at the top there, 3 exabytes. These are some of our competitors, Backblaze, Wasabi, and Box.com. These are their prices based on the size so these numbers are the revenue numbers of these companies. We do not know if they're charging everyone $6, they're probably charging less. But it shows you if we were to sell all the storage on the network for $1, we would generate about 36 million in revenue. Now, if we jump to $3, we're at about 108 million. Now, if we go to $5, which is still about where we're at, we would generate about $180 million in revenue, which makes us bigger than Backblaze and bigger than Wasabi. Now, both of these companies have been around 15 years. So this is a long-term storage business. It really is. It takes a long time to get there. But it shows you that we have a network. If all we did is sell all of it at the same price, we could be here, here, here. You know, Box.com does about 1 billion in sales, but they have an unlimited pricing. Now, how do they make more money? They have more features. You can do all kinds of features with just that hard drive. You can lock the drive. You can share the data in different ways. But their goal is to make more money off each terabyte with features, and they do it very well. I don't think that product is available in China. I don't think Box.com. It's a very corporate product. It's used by corporations, especially in healthcare, legal, and I'm not sure what else, finance as well. But it's a very sophisticated storage product. Okay, it says industry truths. I think it was supposed to sell truths, but nevertheless, there are some hard truths, industry truths that we need to realize here. Selling blockchain ecosystems seems to be relatively easy. At least some people here can contest. They've probably had success selling investments and things like that. But selling blockchain-backed storage and technology and general IT services, very difficult. Partly because it's not legal, at least in many countries. So the legality blocks that. I know in China that's an issue for some things, but not all. But it is one of the reasons. A comparison though, Filecoin is 5 years old next month. It took AWS S3 6 years to launch their product and actually get to the market. So these things take a long time, and they had, you know, they were not even first to market, but it tells you, at least in this example, things take a long time. China is a very specific market. I am not a China expert. I don't think I ever will claim to be, but when I see things changing here, it changes very big at first, especially when they, you know, October 2021, many things changed here. It looks difficult from the outside. It just looks very difficult to perform the storage operations that Filecoin offers and sell them, but that could change. The rest of APAC is easier, right, Jan? I think we would say Southeast Asia, specifically Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand. Those markets are a little bit more open, in my experience, into selling new IT services compared to China. North America and Europe are much more open. I think North America will be the most open by the end of the year because of just a number of the current Trump legal things that have gone through. Blockchain-backed technology solutions will be much more accepted in the sales process. Okay, this is what I think is the most important thing, and it is people trust brands. Filecoin is a very strong brand. Where's the Filecoin sign? Somewhere here. Oh, perfect, we've got here. Anyway, the number one most important thing we have to lean into is we are a very big blockchain. We are very known throughout the industry. And we are leaning into that. Filecoin on-chain cloud, great job to my colleagues, by the way, on marketing that. It looks very good. I love it. I'm going to show a slide from it. But in my experience, what people want to buy is they want to buy Filecoin. Whether that's the token, they want to buy an investment, or they just want to buy storage. And some blockchains are not going to lean into their brand as much. Shame on them. So we will lean into our brand because it is the most successful. The other thing that I find why we're in a good position is long-term storage contracts are the goal. Getting paid 1 year commitments is very good. It's going to be a little more difficult in the warm storage market, but it is where we want to be. And lastly, this is a very famous image. Nobody probably knows who this is, but Microsoft Windows is very successful for one reason. They have the most applications on the planet. They have developers. And they made, and it's a very famous video from 1998 or something, but everything is Windows-based. Microsoft is the most powerful company in the world. You cannot run a country, a military, a corporation, or anything without Microsoft Windows. It's impossible, or Microsoft in general. The world runs on spreadsheets. So developers are important to us. We do a great job with the developer ecosystem. So we're always out there trying to develop. It's not easy, but we are there. And this is a Filecoin truth. We are in the $5 storage business. We're in a $6 storage business if you want to buy the upsell. If you want to be in the $10 storage business, we can be in that business as well. But we have put a price on it. We have a global price. Now we have to push and sell it. The most important thing a lot of blockchains have not done, but we have done, is we have a price on our service and a price on our token, but those are independent of each other. But kudos to you, Tim, on this one, for sure. So, okay, getting near the end here. I have a quiz. It's only 2 fill per question. It's only open to the students, though. Students only. If you can't understand this in English, we can have somebody translate. Okay. Does anyone remember what is the base cost per terabyte to produce? Anyone? No, students only. You can't, sorry. I need a student. Student has to answer this. And I'm going to pay you in fill, so you have to download a wallet.
在他的演讲过程中，他有分享，其实也有提到，就是说他每一个，他现在想要问大家的问题是，就是每 T， 就他接下来会有3个问题，然后每一个问题都会奖励2 fill， 然后但是呢，是一个 token， 然后但是他想只针对于学生 student， how about everyone not students。 OK， 只可以我们学生来回答，就是刚刚他在演讲的这个过程当中，这3个问题就是所提到的，谁可以给出答案，可以立马奖励2 fill。OK， 第一个问题是，生产每 T 的基本成本是多少美元
Okay, what's the answer?
0.4 0.4，是不是
？No, try
0.28。
Yeah, 28.
Okay.
You said 28 first?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She was first. You were second. We got another question. Okay, hold that.
还有第二个问题，第二个问题是，这个热评和这个整个的市场规模是多少？
Oh, no. 200 billion, got it. Right. 1, 2. Number 3.
第3个问题是，他有提到，就是在90年代，在美国有一个人抢银行，他为什么要抢劫银行？
Oh, he was first.
OK。
因为那里有钱。
什么？
因为那里有钱。
Money is money. There's money here.
Okay, got it. 1, 2, 3. Come on. Do you have MetaMask?
你们有没有 MetaMask？ 小狐狸的钱包有吗？对，想想看啊。
Is it available?
Filecoin 小狐狸钱包，然后可以Filecoin 可以官网上有一个那个 API 的，你就登录一下，然后把那个 那个你的 COX 的那个地址给到他就可以了，然后获取两费希望通过这个为契机让你们加入生态也尝试一下。
Good work. Then I will come to you. Okay, if you have any questions, now is the time. Any questions? And you can always contact me.
对，就是他们微信有问题可以加他。现场现在有其他的问题吗？
Yeah, I just have an instant question. I just saw you said the cost of taking data out for Filecoin is zero. I just want to hear more written about it because as we saw and also Jennifer said before, it's like $5 per TIB.
We don't have the tooling we do not have the tools to track egress yet, meaning we can't meter, right? We don't have that built.
是一个很好的问题，就因为我们节点是直接存储数据，然后数据应该也从节点出去嘛，所以在存储服务商那里，我们是很难从协议层面来知道他们到底 serve 了多少 egress， 所以在这个设计检索，然后确实我们可以有加密的存储的那个证明，但是检索证明目前在研究上面 proof of retrieval 是不可实现的，因为有个 fair exchange 公正交易的一个问题，确实是没有办法从协议层面开始，但是我们想要改变这个情况，因为 egress is where the money is at apparently，所以看的 the margin is higher I guess，他可能可以赚更多钱，所以才说在热存储这边，就是 Filecoin Beam 那个团队，他们会用到一个 gateway 的形式，他们自己可以通过他们的平台来 track， 就是他们自己输出了多少的 egress， 然后他们从原始的数据提供给我们的矿工这边，就服务商这边，因为他们没有数据嘛。用户是跟服务商存的数据，所以当他们要把这个数据检索出去的时候，他们要从服务商这里先把数据获取出来。那他们是可以自己 track 他们到底拿了多少数据。所以间接的我们可以collect 这个egress 的这个数据之后，就可以设计这个激励层，然后包括在就我刚说的第3个路线图，把他们现在这个月在做的事情，就是把这个激励层给搭建起来，然后我们会有个链上的智能合约，根据 egress 的量级来给到服务商，包括 Filecoin Beam 来进行一个收费，所以我们不会再是没有检索收费的这个情况了。
It is the goal, but also some customers they don't want egress. They want it simple, very simple, $5. And if you're using too much, just shut it off. The industry tends to have a 1-to-1 storage to egress relationship in the contracts, or 1-to-3. And then if somebody were to say upload 1 terabyte but download 20, they would contact them and turn it off. But we just don't have that parallel relationship that's needed. Any other questions? Do you have your MetaMask wallets downloaded? 1, 2, 3? Yeah? Still working? I'll come to you. Okay. Who's next? Thank you. 谢谢.